Hi, Drift here. Got another job to do on the S6. I ordered some new rocker cover gaskets because the passenger side one, that's the left hand side for us that drive on the left hand side of the road, has been leaking a little bit. For about a year ago it started. It was just a little bit. It's still really only a small amount, but you can smell the oil burning on the manifold. So I ordered some new gaskets. They arrived a couple of weeks ago. Still haven't got my garage sorted, so I'm outside and it's a reasonable day today, so I thought I'd get at least one of the rockers off and the one leaking side and try and get that one done today, and seeing how that goes. Depending upon how that goes, I'll get the other one done either today or maybe tomorrow. But just a quick catch up to where I'm at. Took the plastic covers off the motor, and then I have removed all the clips from the fuel injectors and everything that fuel injection is attached to. I've removed the one-time use oil, these breather pipe bands off. There's a special tool for doing them up. This is what it looks like. You're only supposed to use them one time. You can also use this to sort of tension them up, get them off. I've got them off by just slipping a screwdriver under that part and flicking it up off the catches. This is what one of them looks like. They have little teeth that when you torque them up they bite down, and as I said, they're used once, but that's all right. I've got some normal hose clamps that I'll replace those with. Just you don't see these ones, they're tidy, but they'll be hidden underneath the engine cover anyway. See, there's what one that hasn't been taken off looks like. Taking all those off, I'm now removing the coil packs, so undoing all the bolts on the coil packs. I've already been around with the torque. What size torque is it? T30, there we are, T30 torque, which is the studs, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those that torque down the rocker cover or valve cover, and I'll take that out. There's the edge of the rubber gasket there. These get squashed down in time, and the serrations on the rubber gasket that seal it stop sealing the oil. So a new rubber gasket, they're a dry fit gasket, no gasket glue required. So Nick, and you just clean everything up, put it in and torque it down, not too tight. I'll get the last of these bolts off and remove all of the coil packs, and then I can undo the bolts, take the rocker cover off, and clean it up, put the gasket on. So I'll get some shots when I've got, there's the oil coil pack. See, there's been no oil leaking out of the seal around the spark plug tube, coil pack tube. So I don't even know whether I'm going to replace those, because you have to sort of burn them out. If none of those are leaking, if there's no oil around any of those coil packs, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bother. I'll just keep the new seals that I got that were sent with it, and I will keep them for a rainy day, so to speak. But if there's any that are leaking, I will replace them. But I can tell here there's just a bit of gunge. I don't think. Yeah, no, that's dry too. There isn't any leaking any oil out. So I will just replace the rocker cover gasket itself. Alright, I'll get back to it. There it is. The rocker cover or valve cover's off. It looks pretty tidy in there, pretty clean. Everything has been getting the right lubrication. There's no signs of huge wear there. I'm pretty pleased with what it looks like inside. There's the gasket, the rubber gasket, and you can see these ridges here are what makes it seal, and then there's 3 of them, but you can see in places here it's gotten quite flat, and in fact there it's almost non-existent. That's where the actual main leak was coming through. So up in the top here, that's still pretty good, but these areas here quite flat, and that's just old age. And so I'm going to clean this up, take off the rubber gasket and put the new one in, and then we'll be away. So yeah, easy peasy. I'll clean up the edge from any oil and just clean up around the edges here. I'll get a bit of that out there too. Suck that out with a vacuum. Actually, don't want that going in there, that grey graphite. That's it. Okay, I'll come back when I've got that cleaned up with the gasket ready to go. Alright, so I've cleaned up around the edge there. That's where the gasket's going to seal. All around the outside. That's all nicely cleaned up now. So that's good to go. And I've cleaned up the valve cover, bit of degreaser there around the edge there. Now before I'm just going to dry with the hairdryer all around these grooves here, because that's where the gasket, here's the gasket, here's the new gasket. It pushes in, so that lip there pushes in to that groove all the way around, so that goes into the groove, that lip there, and then that's the sealing edge there that goes down on the flat side. So into that groove all the way around, we'll feed it round, push it all in nice and snug and tight and dry. So before I put that new gasket in, I'm going to hit it with the hairdryer around here just to dry it out. Then I'm going to push that gasket in. Just make sure it's nice and dry for a good seal, because it is a dry fit gasket. You don't want any grease or oil or water or anything in there. You just want it dry. Alright, I'm going to hit that, get the gasket in, and then we'll put it together. Okay, so I've dried it out with the dryer, and I've now push the gasket in all the way around, and you'll see it's got locating lugs on the edge there. Get that so we can see. There we are, there's one there. See, notches in, little notches. There's a few of those around the ends. And then the other thing that happens is these bolts, they push in, and that metal lip there seals inside the rubber there in the ring. So you've got to push these in, and that locks these. So you push them and get the metal round. There we go, and that actually captivates or holds the nut in its spot. So, which is a good thing. Helps locate the rubber and captivates the nut, so it holds it captive, so you can put the thing in place and tighten it down. So I'm going to put the rest of those bolts in, and then I'm going to put the head, the rocker cover gasket on the head and snug it down. Right, so I've got the rocker cover back on, and I've done up tight all of these bolts around the outside, the two in the middle, gaskets nicely sandwiched in there. I don't know the torque settings, but I did them to the German spec of good and tight. Good and tight. I'll check them, and after I've run it for a little while, I'll check how tight they are again, because they can change with heat. I did the gasket on the valve cover gasket on the van, and after a couple of weeks that actually started leaking, and they were finger tight when I tried them, so I torqued them back down again, and that was fine. So after few Ks of running, I'll check how tight those are again. So I put new hose clamps on the breather hoses. It's not a lot of pressure in there anyway, but you can't do up those one-time use ones again, so just got to put new hose clamps on. The clips for the injectors and the fuel rail stuff all have these springs on. You pull that out with a screwdriver and pull that clip right out, and then you slide it back in there to clip it back on. They just push back on quite easily, but you got to put that clip back in there, and just be careful when you take them out that you don't lose those springs down in the car somewhere. I'll put that one on after I get that wheel hose back in position. So I'm going to put everything back on anyway, get it all done up, put the coil packs back in, clip them back in, and we'll be away. So I think I'll call that a wrap. Well, I'll do one more shot when it's all back together, everything's back on and it's running again. Right, it's all buttoned back up, everything's back on. A couple of new cable ties where I took off existing cable ties. Underneath there, a new hose clamp, there's what the old ones look like. Left hand side, or the driver's side, right hand side is not leaking, and I'm not going to fix it. I've learnt from experience sometimes it's better not to fix things that aren't broke. I'll keep the gasket, the other spare gasket I've got in the plastic bag, I'll put that away somewhere, and if it ever starts leaking I've got another gasket for it. But I'm only fixing the side that's leaking at this point, and it's done. So that's all from me. Click on the like button, click on subscribe, and I'll bring more content out when I have it. That's all from Drift. Thank you. I'm out.